IT Expo, Los Angeles, California, 2008.
Welcome, Bob. I've got Bob Emmerson here with me today for another interview for IP Convergence TV here at the IT Expo in Los Angeles. And Bob, you are a freelance writer and you've been covering convergence technologies for a long time. You've contributed a few articles to our portal, which is great. So I want to talk to you about some of the themes you're seeing right now. Convergence, as we know, is happening. And I know you've got some views on how convergence is unfolding, especially in terms of things like QoS, QoE, unified communications. So let's touch on a couple of these topics while we have some time. So why don't we start, Bob, first by welcoming you here, and thank you for taking part. And talk a little bit about what you're seeing in this whole area of QoS and how convergence is impacting networks today.
Okay, well, we've been talking about convergence for a long time. It's happened. Yes. It's out there. We've got all the different kinds of traffic going down one network. And now we're starting to see serious issues because voice, video, and data have got fundamental different requirements, which we don't have to go into. Most people know what it is. So QoS is becoming a very important issue for the network operators. We've got various mechanisms, very sophisticated mechanisms, very few standards out there.
Yes.
For instance, at the show, I particularly like the solution of a company called Euphoria, who've got something called Guarantee of Service, GOS. But at the end of the day, what really counts is not the quality of service, it's the quality of experience. What is the end user experience? And particularly in scenarios like IPTV and triple and quad play, the end user is going to expect IP to develop not merely as good as his regular broadcast, but superior. And if it doesn't, and if it jitters, or whatever else happens, he's going to complain, they're going to be calls to the call center, revenues are going to go down, maybe truck rolls or anything. And in fact, at the end of the day, the only way to get it right is to be able to monitor the experience of every individual user on the network. And that is a very, very formidable challenge.
Yes, yes. Every single person has a different experience, different expectation. And how well do you think the vendors understand the importance of QoE?
Well, that's a good question, because yesterday I moderated a session on this subject here. 3 very good presenters and an equal number of people in the audience. 3. Very disappointing. And at the end of the session, I said to the audience, I don't understand why there were so few people, because in my opinion, QoE is one of the most important, maybe the single most important communications parameter. Why don't we hear more about it? I asked the vendors, and they said it's less known, less talked about, less awareness in the States than it is in Europe.
Sure.
So there's an interesting contrast. And I'm not just blowing the trumpet for Europe, it's a fact.
But also IPTV, these technologies are a little further advanced in Europe, and I think there's more understanding of where those metrics are coming from.
Yeah. The other thing at the show here, a lot of talk about UC, of course, Unified Communications. Yes. Not showing off, but I was writing about Unified Communications 4 to 5 years ago when it was launched by Microsoft. And at the time it was Greenwich, but it was pronounced Greenwich. I saw it at Siemens. Very, very impressed by it. So it's at least 4, 5, 6 years ago. Deployment very thin on the ground. In the meantime, the goalposts have moved, they've widened and all the rest of it. It does appear to be coming to the market now. But the interesting things I saw here were presentations about moving beyond unified communications, which is to embed VoIP into business processes, and to say this is the single biggest benefit of VoIP. It's not just cheap telephony. We've been there, we've done that, we've got Skype. It's to embed in the business processes.
And we heard that from Jonathan Christensen of Skype as well, talking about VoIP is dead in his presentation and how it really becomes subsumed into other technologies and communications platforms. And you've had a lot of exposure to Siemens with their OpenScape platform.
Exactly. I heard this pitch yesterday from the buyer, and it was one of those deja vu feelings because I've seen exactly the same thing from Siemens. They had a very sophisticated solution for embedding VoIP into the business processes. But nothing to say bad about Siemens. Was over-engineered. It was the kind of thing you'd expect from a committee of German engineers. And in fact, the way they managed the availability was so sophisticated, with so much functionality, that whatever productivity gained you made that way, you would lose by setting up the system.
Right.
So that was, but I think UC is definitely coming, definitely going to happen.
Okay. And then just one last topic we should touch on is the whole convergence of these technologies driving internet traffic to levels we've never even dreamed of a few years ago. How is that going to impact networks now?
Well, what I learned from the vendors and the market, for instance, particularly Nokia, Siemens Networks, is they're predicting traffic growth 100-fold by 2015, which is pretty staggering. All this multimedia is one of the factors. Another factor is the fantastic growth in the mobile subscribers in the emerging markets, China and India.
The smartphones.
Their prophecy, they foresee flat all-IP networks. The software resides in the internet. It comes from third-party developers. Same message actually from Avaya. The big vendors just take too long. They're not nimble enough. They're not smart enough. And they're saying to the network operators, look, like it or not, the internet model is going to prevail. Here's a flat, all-IP, very efficient network that can deliver very low ARPU, you know, so efficient, in fact, that you can make money out of ARPUs in these emerging markets of just a few dollars a month. And that's, I think, is a very interesting, very challenging development. But if they pull it off, very, very good for the whole economy. So that's kind of my quick take, John, on this very, very big subject.
It is a big subject, but that's been great. So, Bob, thanks again for coming on to the interview here, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks very much.